Have you ever noticed that some of the most meaningful opportunities in life come with no guarantees? A new role, a new project, a new relationship, a new idea, even a new dream. You don't know exactly how it'll turn out. You don't know exactly if you'll succeed, and you don't know what you'll learn. And yet, something inside you says, try anyway. I think that's one of the most underrated forms of courage. Not certainty, not confidence, but the willingness to take a step before you have all the answers. If you've been standing at the edge of something new, personally or professionally, this conversation is for you.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome back to Office Optimism with me, Shirala. This is a space for high performers, leaders, and ambitious professionals navigating growth, pressure, and uncertainty with clarity, intention, and grounded optimism. Today, we're talking about a strength that doesn't always get celebrated, the quiet strength of continuing anyway. Not because everything is clear, not because everything is guaranteed, but because growth rarely waits for certainty. And if we're honest, some of the best things in our life began when we were willing to take a step before we knew exactly how the story would unfold. Many people assume confidence comes first, then action follows. But research on self-efficacy suggests the opposite is often true. Confidence is frequently built through experience, not before it. Think about it. Very few people feel completely ready before trying something new. Leaders don't feel ready for every challenge. Parents don't feel ready for every stage. Professionals don't feel ready for every opportunity. Most growth begins with uncertainty, not certainty. The challenge is that we often mistake uncertainty as a signal to stop, when sometimes it's simply evidence that we're learning. And if you've ever felt uncomfortable trying something new, there's a reason for that. So let's talk about the discomfort of being a beginner. Most of us enjoy being competent. We like knowing what we're doing. We like feeling capable. We like getting things right. What we don't always enjoy is being beginners again, because beginners make mistakes. Beginners ask questions. Beginners don't have all the answers, and that can feel vulnerable. Research on learning and development consistently shows that growth requires experimentation. Experimentation requires risk, and risk requires the possibility of getting it wrong. But here's the good news. Making mistakes isn't evidence that you're failing. It's often evidence that you're learning. What if discomfort isn't proof that you're incapable? What if it's proof that you are expanding? And that brings us to something that I believe is essential for growth, something that we don't talk about nearly enough: psychological safety, and what psychological safety makes possible. When people hear the phrase psychological safety, they often think about workplace culture, speaking up, asking questions, sharing ideas, and all of that matters. But at its core, psychological safety creates something incredibly powerful: permission to learn. Research by Amy Edmondson found that people thrive in environments where they feel safe to contribute, ask questions, admit mistakes, and continue learning. Why? Because fear consumes energy. When people are constantly protecting themselves from failure, they have less energy available for growth. Psychological safety doesn't eliminate mistakes. It changes our relationship with them. It allows us to see mistakes as information instead of identity, feedback as guidance instead of rejection, and learning as progress instead of proof that we aren't enough. And honestly, that's where growth begins. But here's something that I've come to believe. The most important psychological safety we experience isn't always external. Sometimes it's internal. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned through Office Optimism is that I don't need to know exactly how something will turn out before I begin. When I started this journey, I wasn't a professional podcaster. I wasn't even a YouTuber. I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't know how many people would actually watch. I didn't know what would resonate, and I didn't know where it would lead. What I did know was that I had something meaningful to share. So I started, and I'm still learning. Every episode teaches me something. Every challenge teaches me something, and every opportunity stretches me. And there's been plenty of moments where things didn't go exactly the way that I expected. But I've learned not to fear that, because growth isn't about getting everything right. It's about remaining willing. Willing to try, willing to learn, willing to improve, and willing to begin again. And that is what psychological safety has come to mean for me. Not freedom from mistakes, freedom to learn from them. And that is why continuing anyway means staying open. Sometimes we think continuing anyway means working harder, grinding more, pushing through. But I think there's a healthier way to look at it. Continuing anyway means remaining open to growth, open to learning, open to possibility, open to becoming someone you haven't been yet. Growth belongs to people who are willing to be beginners again, who are willing to raise their hand, try the idea, apply for the opportunity, start the project, learn the skill, share their voice, even when success isn't guaranteed. Because certainty isn't what creates growth, willingness does. So how do we cultivate this kind of mindset? Let's close with a few practical reminders on how to continue anyway. 1, focus on curiosity instead of perfection. Ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of what if I fail? 2, give yourself permission to be new. Every expert was once a beginner. Growth requires room to learn. 3, treat mistakes as information, not identity. Mistakes tell us what to adjust. They don't tell us who we are. And 4, take the next small step. You don't need the entire roadmap. You only need the next step. And here's your joyful point. You do not need certainty to grow. This week, identify one thing that you've been hesitant to try because you don't know exactly how it will turn out. Then take one small step anyway, because growth rarely begins with certainty. It begins with willingness. Let that steady you. We've now made it to the Office Optimism focal point. If this conversation resonated with you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may be waiting for more confidence, more certainty, or more permission before taking their next step. Sometimes the opportunity isn't asking us to be ready. It's asking us to be willing. You don't have to know exactly how the story ends. You don't have to have every answer. You don't have to eliminate every doubt. Sometimes growth simply asks us to remain open, to remain curious, to remain willing, and to continue anyway. Keep learning, keep growing, keep becoming, and keep shining. Bye-bye.